Hello and welcome to Car File. This week, they're sexy, they turn heads wherever they go, they're curvaceous, but best of all, they go like a train. We're talking coupes. But we're not talking teeny tiny little coupes like the Puma and the Tigra. We're talking big coupes for grown-ups. Cars like this crop of coupes here. We have from Korea, the Hyundai Coupe A, from France, the Peugeot Coupe A, and from Japan, the Toyota Celica. Driving position is actually very comfortable. I feel quite low slung, quite low down in the car. The waist is quite high up, which means I feel like I'm in a low slung sporting car, which in fact I am. This is the top spec 1.8 litre VVTi, but it's in 190 T-Sport form. Basically what that means is we get a 1.8 litre engine with valve technology, a bit like Honda's VTEC. It puts out 190 brake horsepower, hence the 190 in the name. And actually, of the three we've got, it's the fastest from 0 to 60. That comes up in 7.4 seconds, which is quick in anybody's book. This latest Celica, though, is one sharp piece of kit. It really is. There's something faintly insect-like about the very sharp lines intersecting with curves. I don't think it's ugly necessarily, more distinctive. It is razor sharp to drive when you remember this isn't a dedicated and focused sports car, it is a coupe, and therefore a compromise. It changes direction quickly. I can feel everything that's going on through the steering wheel. It's very communicative. It is a very sporty, very fast-feeling car. The T-Sport might be expensive, but it is very, very clever. Squeezing 189 brake horsepower from a 1.8 litre engine is no small feat, and the result is sparkling performance if you're prepared to put in the effort. Remember, you've got to rev it to use it. You will pay for your insurance too. Group 16 hurts. If you think this looks quirky, I went to France to drive a coupe that takes quirky to a whole new level. Hello and welcome to the Time Travel Show and to one of the 21st century's greatest invention, the time travel pill. Fantastic, that is, until you get hiccups. Then you don't know where you're going to end up. Oh, hang on. Hello? Renault seem to be carefully crafting this reputation for every now and again giving us a mad car. Oh no. Oh. So which bright spark went to Mr. Renault and said, "Hey boss, I have a great idea, let us build a giant coupe espace." But what's more incredible is that Renault then said, "Yeah, nice idea, kid. Build it." And they did. Okay, so this is not like driving anything else I've driven before. You sit quite high up like you would in the espace that it's based on, and then the dashboard just goes on forever. It's just the curvature of the earth at the end that means it disappears over the horizon. It's enormous. It is very big in here, there's loads of space, but that is added to by the glass. Acres and acres of the stuff, so there's a huge amount of light flying in. And of course the glass isn't just fixed either. There's something very clever here. Whilst it's not a full convertible, you can let the breeze in. Oh no, I think I'm about to let some breeze in. The name Avantime literally means ahead of its time, and it certainly looks futuristic. Sharp V-shaped air intake vents and lights lend a slightly aggressive, sporty feel to the front. By contrast, the rear is squat yet dynamic looking, which is accentuated by the big hemispherical rear window. Say that after a pint. The designers in fact wanted the viewer to be continually astonished as they walked around the car, with the front giving no clue to the rear and vice versa. Well, they sure took my breath away. Back in the driver's seat. Nobody's trying to kid on, not even Renault, that it's a light, nimble roadster. It's very much a grand tourer, and to that end we've got big, meaningful engines. It feels like furniture in here. It's just very smart, very discreet, and absolutely unique. Oh, hang on. It took a brave man to sit at the board table at Renault and suggest a coupe version of the Espace MPV, but somehow they pulled it off and it works. The Avantime is a coupe, and it is unlike anything else. Don't forget, it's that distinctiveness that many coupe buyers want. It's got the power too, 210 brake horsepower and 0 to 60 in 8.6 seconds. That is incredible. Whether or not it actually will be a success for Renault, well, that lies in the future. I could tell you because I've been there, but I don't want to spoil the surprise. Oops. Oh, hang on. I can get this back. I've got a good idea. Nope. I mean, an MPV coupe. Madness. Just what crazy kind of creation is going to come lurking out of the forest next? Probably a diesel coupe. What is clever about the 406 though is that the drive and the ride are just as clever and grown up and sophisticated as the exterior. As soon as you take off in it and as soon as you start to press on, you realise this is a completely different setup. Where the Toyota is harsh, this is soft, pliant, forgiving, which might lead you to think it's slower. In actual fact, press on with any serious intent in the Peugeot and you find that, yeah, sure, it rolls a bit more, but it's quick. It's more of a fluid drive. It feels more like a grand tourer. You proceed swiftly through the bends. You don't cut and thrust. Sure, it's probably never going to have the edge over the razor-sharp Toyota, but it's not about that. It's more about quick touring, and at that, it's good. The diesel engine is very much a diesel engine, and in any other car in the Peugeot range I'd be delighted. But this is a coupe, it's just not what I want to find. It pulls cleanly enough, it's got plenty of poke in the mid-range and particularly in the low revs. It would have, it's a diesel. But I want something fast and frantic, I want something that sounds better, I want something that's more exciting. This is boring inside and under the bonnet. The Peugeot 406 Coupe, or just Peugeot Coupe as they now want us to call it, is undeniably gorgeous. When it was first launched, we couldn't believe that a mainstream manufacturer could bring out a car that so closely resembled a Ferrari. So understatedly good-looking is it. We were gobsmacked. The exterior lines are understated, subtle and truly elegant, which means it comes all the more of a disappointment when you slide into the interior to find that, yep, there's room for 4 adults, which is good. That's the best point. Other than that, it's woeful in here. It is so gloomy, dour and average, I can't describe it. There's another problem here as well. In this diesel engine version, the noise from the diesel is very, very well shielded. It's only just there, but it is there. Couple that to the drab interior, I'm in a minicab. The Peugeot Coupe still looks gorgeous, ages after first being launched. But therein perhaps lies its problem. It has been around quite a time and is beginning to show its age, particularly inside, where the taxi cab interior just can't keep up with that still glamorous exterior. But this does stand out for one other reason. It's a diesel. Think of all the economy you can boast to your mates jealous of your coupe's good looks. Now, if we were a sophisticated bunch of car buyers, then the Peugeot Coupe's subtle, understated lines would make it a surefire winner every time, even now, some years after first being launched. But I just said it, didn't I? If we were a sophisticated bunch of buyers. And the idea of a diesel in a coupe, well, it's a bit like a roof rack on a scooter, isn't it? But if you are actually in the market for buying a coupe yourself, here are some useful tips and hints on doing so. In the past, coupes have always been seen as the toy of the rich. Recently, however, more and more manufacturers have been bringing out practical and affordable coupes for us, the masses. The question is, why?
It's something that people aspire to. A two-door quick car is something they love and always will do. The two-door sports car, for instance, has always been very special, and this is something, an extension of it, which gives more to it.
I'm not sure they are necessarily appealing. No one sits in the back of a car that size for more than 100 miles without developing terminal cramp. The problem is that there's a whole bunch of fathers out there who never really wanted to be fathers, who've got young kids, who are desperate to retain some sort of sporting pedigree. So a lot of people are dragging their poor wives around showrooms on Saturday morning trying to persuade them they can get a baby seat and a child in the back of this ridiculously tight car, ridiculously tight space, because they can't cope with the idea that they're suddenly parents.
There's no doubt that the major manufacturers have brought the coupe experience to the masses, offering not only traditional good looks and performance, they also bring practicality and affordability. The only question is, if by mass producing these once dream machines, they're in danger of losing their aspirational appeal. This week on Carfile, we're looking at curvy coupes. We've already had a go in the Toyota Celica and the Peugeot Coupe. After the break, the new Hyundai Coupe. See you in a few minutes. Welcome back to Carfile, this week concentrating on coupes. Time now for the Hyundai Coupe, the new Hyundai Coupe. And it was the coupe that really put them as a manufacturer on the map. But suddenly the previous two generations look, well, a bit odd compared to this, which looks great. This is a very important car for Hyundai. It was the original coupe that finally gave the Koreans some credibility in the European markets, which makes it all the more surprising to find an interior that is, well, it's sensible. I was expecting more, look at us, but it's not. It's not all bells and whistles and fangly spangles. It's actually quite sensible, quite sombre even, which is a pleasant revelation. This top spec version we get leather, aircon, CD, all of that stuff, but more interestingly a 2.7 litre V6 engine that gives us 0 to 60 within reach in just 8.2 seconds. Quick. And it's not just on paper that that engine impresses either. It makes a lovely raucous sound, which is important in a car like this. And it also gives us plenty of mid-range urge. It's not all frantic and buzzy compared to, well, say the Toyota Celica, where the power is at the top end and you're rowing it through those 6 gears. Here, it's more mid-range and punchy. The old Hyundai Coupe, and it had a lot of fans, never, to my mind, looked quite right. There were some angles from which it was ugly. This, though, is a completely different prospect. Catch it in the right mood and from the right viewpoint, and there is something suspiciously Ferrari-ish about this coupe. Not that that is a bad thing in this particular market. I mean, looking like a tractor, that's a bad thing. Looking like a Ferrari, that's a good thing. We do have 6 gears available again, and the gearbox is nice and precise and easy to use, but you really aren't working at anything else like as hard as in the Toyota. Compared to the Peugeot, of course, well, it's a completely different ballgame. Suddenly a diesel coupe is not the most appealing of prospects. As a drive, it sits precisely in between the Peugeot and the Toyota. It's a lot softer, more compliant and more of a tourer than the Toyota's rather harsh ride. But suddenly the Peugeot feels, well, positively wallowy. This does feel a little bit sharper than that. It's a good compromise. It's incredible. It seems like only seconds since you couldn't say Hyundai without sniggering. But the coupe in this, its third incarnation, is a genuine coupe worthy of the title. Finally, the design is resolved and complete. It doesn't look like it's been stuck together from the leftover bin. Performance isn't too shabby either, with plenty of torque from that 2.7-litre V6, and you'll save on your insurance too at Group 14. The Hyundai always was pretty good, but it has grown better to become very good. Now here's a look at a coupe that always was very good right from the start, the BMW 3 Series. Of the 3 coupes we've looked at so far, they all lack just one thing: class. Not as cars in themselves, more in the badge department, and that is not a problem for this car. The BMW 330Ci. Outside, every inch the classy coupe, but it's not outside that the story lies. And that story is not just the fact that, yes, it's luxuriously appointed inside, and believe me, it is luxuriously appointed, including a telly, which is very, very nice. The really clever bit here is the gearbox. Now listen carefully, because I don't fully understand this, so as I explain it, we're going to be learning together. It is an ordinary manual gearbox, just as you would get on any other BMW coupe. But it works automatically, sequentially. So what we're not talking about is your traditional automatic box. There are very good reasons for having a manual over that. I'll explain them in a second class if you pay attention. What we've got then is a gear lever in the usual place, and we just slide it into the middle position. There is no clutch pedal, we depress the throttle and we pull away smoothly. Both the clutch itself and the actuation of the gears in the gearbox is carried out electro-hydraulically. That's automatically to you and me, but don't forget, not an automatic box. You've still got your standard manual gearbox. You can then change gear either by waggling the bit about in the middle as you would in a Tiptronic style gearbox, or with these little paddles on the steering wheel. Okay, if you're still with me and still paying attention, one final point, that reason. Well, an automatic gearbox loses a lot of power, apart from making a rather nasty noise and being a bit lurchy and boring. You soak away a lot of the torque through the torque converter, through the actual mechanics of it, compared to a manual gearbox. So what we've got here is the convenience of a manual gearbox with the enormous expense and extra complication of a load of clever gubbins to change gear for you. Yeah, all right, with the 330Ci we threw budget right out of the window at nearly £28,000, but look what you get for your bucks. 231 bhp from that creamy smooth 3-litre engine. Personally, I'd throw the gearbox out of the window and go for something more ordinary. The performance is simply superb, 6.5 seconds 0 to 60. But insurance is really going to smart. Group 17, ouch! Well, if the Beamer doesn't bang your gong, here's 5 more alternatives. One of them's got to work for you. In 5th place, from a manufacturer more usually associated with more utilitarian tackle, the Citroën Zara Coupe A. At 16,410 quid, it's not that cheap and it's not that modern either, but it can do the business, scampering to 60 miles an hour in 8 seconds. Still from France, this time Renault, the Megane. At 14,730 quid, their coupe is not expensive. It is an ageing model now, the whole Megane range due for replacement soon, so bargain hard. You get what you pay for. 140 brake horsepower is healthy enough from a 2-litre engine, and 8.6 seconds to hit 60 is none too bad either. Insurance isn't too grim at Group 13, and it's still a pretty little coupe. Surprisingly substantial in this budget coupe sector, the Vauxhall Astra Coupe checks in at 18,995 quid, and it feels every inch the quality machine. Pretty powerful too, and thanks to that turbo, you get bags of oomph. It'll keep going right up to 152 miles an hour, where legal of course. Your insurance isn't too grim at Group 15, and whilst it may not be the raciest model we've seen today, it somehow does exude a little bit of quality. But if it is quality you're after, what better than that 3-pointed star adorning any Mercedes? In this case, the C-Class Coupe A. At 23,250 quid, the coupe is not to everybody's taste. But the numbers are good thanks to that 2.3-litre compressor engine, 192 brake horsepower and 60 miles an hour is yours within 8 seconds of leaving your drive. Insurance is Group 16, but hey, you've got that badge to look at. In first place though, and from another premium manufacturer, the mighty Audi TT. Since being launched, this car has been taken straight to the hearts of trendy architects and designers the world over. For your 26,800 quid, it not only looks sublime, but it can do the business too. The biz, a deserved first. Well, we've driven them, we've looked at them, we've found out all about them. Here is what we think of them. OK, time to get to business and dish out the points. You know how this works. 5 categories, 5 points available to each car in each category, and a theoretical max of 25 points to be awarded. First up, practicality. Well, come on, they're all coupes. How much practicality do you expect? 2.5 points all round for the Celica, the Hyundai and the Peugeot coupes. When it comes to value, none of these are too shabby. The Celica and the Coupe trail with 3 points each. The Hyundai, you've got to admit, gives a lot of bangs for your buck. It gets 4 points. The third category is style, and in this instance, when we're talking coupes, style is paramount. If it doesn't look good, it'll never sell. The Celica and the Coupe, both handsome enough cars in their own right, get 3 points apiece. But still, incredibly, even all these years after launch, the Peugeot Coupe takes the biscuit here and gets 4 points. They can't just look good, they've got to go well too. Handling, are they all mouth and no trousers? Well, certainly not. The Hyundai Coupe is last with a still healthy 3 points. Then enjoying first place both the Peugeot and the Toyota with 3.5 points each, none of them too shabby. When it comes to performance, there starts to be a little bit more daylight between them. The older and heavier Peugeot Coupe with the diesel engine still manages a creditable 2.5 points. Next up, the Hyundai Coupe with 3.5, but in first place with its firecracker of a Revy engine, the Toyota Celica with 4 points. And that brings us to the final totals. Well, this week in last place with a still reasonable 15.5 points is the Peugeot Coupe. Quite an achievement for a car of this age. In joint first place though, the Toyota Celica and the Hyundai Coupe both get a pretty decent 16 points, proving they're both still the hottest of the coupes in this sector. And that's it for our Carfile Coupe collection. Join us next time on the programme for a definitive guide to buying a completely different kind of car. See you then.